Neil, do you support a fair tax initiative?
I've been asked many times as I was going around the state in my congressional campaign whether I supported a fair tax. And the short answer is I don't support a fair tax. Let me be specific about why I don't. I think first of all it's important to address the merits. In theory, I think the fair tax is actually, you compare a fair tax or a flat tax where we tax consumption as opposed to taxing income, and in theory you get similar outcomes. There's slightly different incentives. I appreciate the argument that a lot of people make that they like the idea of taxing consumption, and if I choose not to pay a tax, I can choose not to consume a particular good or service. I think those are valid arguments. I think some of the challenges with a fair tax are, number one, when we institute a fair tax, one of the first things that we will do is we will penalize people who are on fixed incomes or people who have saved, right? So if somebody has saved, they paid income tax for a certain number for many, many years, and now when we switch to a consumption tax or a fair tax, what happens is the first thing we do is we double tax them, right? They were taxed when they saved, and now we're going to tax them when they consume. Another challenge I think that is a big concern for me is just in practice, if you look, the value-added tax that Europe has isn't the same as the proposal that we have for a fair tax, but one lesson from the value-added tax in Europe, two lessons from the value-added taxes in Europe are, number one, with very few exceptions, the tax rates have done nothing but go up in Europe on value-added tax. And I think that that's a risk. Even if you look at our own payroll tax system, we are vigilant about attacking the IRS because we hate income taxes in the United States, but we don't make much of a stink about the payroll taxes, and payroll taxes have increased 20 times consecutively in the United States. I'm afraid of that type of a dynamic in a consumption tax or in the fair tax. And then I think the other component of the fair tax that makes me a little bit nervous is just like we've written all kinds of exceptions and created all kinds of nuances in the income tax code. There's perverse incentives to do the same thing with the fair tax. So, for example, in the UK, if you have a food that's declared, if you have a food item, some of them are declared taxable and some are declared non-taxable. You have children's clothes that are declared non-taxable, and you have adult clothing that's declared taxable. And the problem is, so if you are an extra small size for an adult or an extra large size for a child, depending on which distinction you make, one is taxable, one is not taxable. That's a 20% cost advantage in the UK if you can get your product deemed non-taxable. And so, short story, I think that my position is the most practical solution to trying dealing with our very challenging income tax code is to start flattening that income tax code. It doesn't require a constitutional amendment to do it. I think that it is good for business and it's good for homeowners. It's not good for just homeowners, but it's good for citizens. And as we start flattening that tax code, we send a clear message about, number one, that everybody has a responsibility to pay a portion of the taxes, and we're going to do less manipulating of the tax code, and we can accomplish a similar objective through flattening the tax code.